When I see rainbow jumping, make me want to pinch my barb, 'cause she's so fine.
Royal Humpy is really a The Royal Humpy is really a marriage between the Humpy and the Royal Wulff. But what you can do is change the colors of the hackle and the body color to create a lot of different flies. Now we're going to tie the Royal Humpy, and we'll show you some of the different colors you can do. The materials you're going to need for the Royal Humpy include moose body hair, 6/0 pre-waxed thread, dry fly hooks, also either calf hair or calf tail, and saddle hackles, whether it be brown or other colors, and poly dubbing, and of course deer hair or elk hair for the body. Now let's go on to the Royal Humpy. Start your thread just like you did on the Humpy and go halfway up the hook from the bend of the eye. Now we're going to put on some moose body hair for the tail. Trim it just like you did on the Humpy. Make sure all the proportions are right. Throw a little bit of a loop on your thread and wrap lightly to the back and tighter towards the middle of the fly. Now we're ready to tie on the wing. Now let's look at some calf hair or tail. Now the calf tail is very kinky and hard to work with, where your body hair is much more even, a lot thicker, and will stack a lot better than your tail. Again, tail on the left, body hair on the right. Much easier to work with the body hair when tying the Royal Humpy. Now let's prepare our wing. We're going to cut out some hair from the body, and we're going to use our finger to get out all the smaller fibers before we stack it. Now stack your wing and check out your proportion. It should only be halfway between the end of your body to your eye of your hook with your thread. Now, measure your wing so it's the same length as your shank from the eye to the bend. Tie it in very tightly, push up, and check your proportion. It should be a 45-degree angle from your tail to your wing. Trim it off. You should trim all the smaller fibers off, but leave a little bit of it at the end, a little kind of a butt section there. Now lift your wing forward and tie underneath it. And this is important to tie into the wing so it doesn't go forward. Now you can cover up that butt at the end. All right, you can cover it up, make sure it's in very tightly. Now we're going to wrap in front of the wing because we want that wing to stand up. It's very important. And we build it up and keep building it up so it stands straight up just like that. Now we're going to divide it. So we want to make sure again that it's standing straight up. We're going to take half on one side, on half the other, and then use our Xing pattern. One from behind the wing, then in front of the wing. There we go again, just forming a little X dividing the wing. Now check it out to the front and make sure you have it divided equally. Now we're going to wrap around the wing. You do it slowly but deliberately, grabbing the wing each time you wrap around. Make a couple wraps just to divide it out, just like that, to make sure that you do have it equal. Now you can trim out some of the renegade fibers there with your scissor points. It's really important to have a good sharp pair of scissors here. I'll tell you, that old calf hair can really ruin a pair of scissors. Now we're going to wrap around the wing until we can cover most of the white. Again, you wrap it deliberately, and the wing closest to you, you can wrap a little bit slower with the wing being straight out. And a little bit of a pull will bring that wing right up so it's divided. Now see that white there? You want to cover that white, because if you push that wing forward, it will eventually slip off. So keep wrapping until you cover all the white. We don't want to see any white there. Now a couple more Xing patterns between the wings, and you have a complete divided wing. Now this wing won't pull out. Now it's time to get some body hair. So we're going to trim off some dyed brown deer hair. Boy, isn't that a nice looking color? And we're going to clear out all the loose fibers so they're all equally. It's not necessary to stack this because we're going to trim it at the end. We don't really care that the fibers may not be completely even. Now let's turn it around, and we're going to cut it, trim it like that. We're going to tie in the ends of the hair instead of the butt ends like we tie in a Humpy. Trimming it down, we're getting it just prepared just right. Now we're going to tie it in just like we would a Humpy. There we go. Had to make a couple false wraps there. Now we're going to wrap it up there. Looks good. Now, you don't have to be really too conscious of having your thread cover all the deer hair because we're going to dub in a body. Now we're going to pull it up and give it a slight twist. Oop, there's a little renegade one. We got to get him out of there. Now check out your proportions. Should look right. And we're ready to put on a little bit of dubbing here. And we're going to put on kind of a light green poly dubbing. And one of the mistakes a lot of people make is they put on too much dubbing. Put on a little at a time, and you'll find it will go on a lot easier. You might want to put a little wax on your thread, but I tend to use wax monocord, and it works out real well. Now we're ready. We're going to pull back the deer hair, get a few of those little renegades out of there. Now we're going to wrap forward. Here we go with a nice, even body. Now I'll tell you, you don't have to worry about wrapping a bunch of thread, and we've got a body that will really absorb materials. Now, we're going to bring forward the deer hair just between the wings and wrap over a couple nice easy wraps over the body. Now, this is important. You notice I haven't pulled down on it. I just wrapped over it, trimmed it out, and there's a little bit of it still there. Now, we're going to cut that off, and I actually have a little bit of a butt, and it hasn't been trimmed tightly. You can see it right there. See that little butt? It just sort of looks like irresistible. Now we're going to wrap the thread through that tighter, tighter, tighter. And eventually we're going to have it tied down. Now this will keep the body from pulling out. There we go. We're wrapping it up. One of the problems with the Royal Humpy is that body will pull out from the wing. Now we're going to look at some saddle hackle. And we're using some Mets here. This is a little longer, and boy, it works great on your larger flies. Now, if you're going to tie 14s and 16s, 18s, you're going to have to go to neck hackle, and I recommend either a Spencer's or a Mets or some of the new generic hackles. There are far better buys than the traditional Indian neck hackle. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, we're going to tie in the butt. Now notice that the shiny side is facing us. That's important. Okay, we're going to tie the butt in. We're going to check it out, pull on it, and make sure that it is tied in. Now, it's important to wrap in front of the wing to make sure you have a nice threshold to tie your hackle onto. Now we're going to wrap our hackle, a couple wraps in back, or a couple to 2 to 3 at least, and we want to do the same in the front so we can put the wing in the middle of the hackle so it balances out properly. Let's not crowd our head because we want the fly to balance out properly. Notice how wrapping 2 hackles at once, how even the hackle comes out instead of wrapping one at a time. Now, if you have problems doing this, refer back to the Humpy, and I think it'll work out real well for you, showing you how to wrap 2 hackles at once. But if you do have a problem, just wrap one at a time. Now, we're going to use our fingers to separate our wing, and we're going to do the whip finish. Now, a little later on, we're going to show you how to do the old Thompson whip finish. Now, whip it out, use our finger to hold it down and snap it out, and there we go, the old Royal Humpy made easy. At least we hope it's made easy for you. Well, now let's take a look at some of the variations on the Royal Humpy. Now, some of the things that we can change. Now, this is the one we just tied. We have brown hackle, and we have a brown chocolate-colored body with a light green olive dubbing. Now, if we look at our old original Royal Humpy, it had a red thread body. It could be a yellow thread body with brown hackle and our white wing. There's a lot we can do by changing this. Now, again, notice our red body. We could make it olive thread, be an olive. We can add just dubbing in there to change the color of our fly. Now, let's take a look at we call this kind of an olive Humpy. This is a light olive hackle with olive dubbing and a dyed olive body. And we can look at an all black one here. We've got a black hump and with a red body with black hackle. And here we go. We've got a dark body with darker hair. This happens to be some dark calf tail. And we have a